The ultimate survival kit. Well, that's your mind. It's how to think, not what to think. The ultimate survival kit. Generally speaking, there's two major functional things that are necessary for us as human beings to navigate our environment. Well, that's one of those weird Ziplocs that doesn't want to open. It's like the remember how that where they get stuck. So there's two major functions in survival. I teach the survival acronym for real, but it's the ability to have fire is a big way. That's a technological advancement, and the other one is how to cut, the ability to cut, because our fingernails and our teeth aren't like the tooth, fang, and claw that the designer, yeah, I said designer, I have a creationist viewpoint, put into the animal kingdom. So our ability to cut and our ability to start fire are the basic skills that when it comes to kit selection, these two can solve a lot of other problems. People are very myopic with their survival kits, their 12 C's of commercialism, which is generally by people who don't know what they're doing. And if that hurts your ears, oh well. Oh well. If you build your skills, you carry less weight. And see, Americans, when they're in their baby stage, especially when it comes to survival, it's all about gathering a bunch of kit. It's a loop that they go through. They go through this loop of awareness / need, right? Because they see danger. And a lot of times that is perpetuated by people that are perpetuating fear. That's generally the first thing. You could die, you could do this, or the Russians are coming, or whatever. That's generally it. Sometimes the danger is real, sometimes it's just fear that's made by propaganda, right? Which can create inactivity, or it can lead to purchasing stuff, right? The charlatans of commercialism. I'm all about capitalism, but I'm not about fear mongering in order to get people to buy stuff, because I'm not selling stuff, right? So ask yourself, who's doing the talking? Well, I'm doing the talking, and I don't have an investment in any of these companies or the stuff that you see here. So the ability to use fire in all its wonderful ways, and the ability to cut, which is part of being able to even start a fire, are the two main functions, if I was going to give you mission essential task list that revolved around core-based survival stuff, it would be these two things would be there. Now there's another one which transcends this, and that's the ability to see, all caps, solidified, established experience. A man with experience is not the mercy of a man with an argument. Well, I got my special kit, but you don't know how to use it, and you've been tested, and you've been found wanting. So relax there, high speed. Go build your skills. Stop being a parrot for propaganda. So the ability to cut and the ability to start fire. So the ultimate survival kit. Let's take this Matagi as an example of a possibility. And I say possibility because how does it meet our survival needs? Some of you will start arguing because you've been brainwashed by, prepper parrots who don't understand the reality of the situation, that people have been using cordage and cloth craft to pre-tourniquet and tourniquet since back to the 1911 was invented at a minimum. What do I mean by that? The Moros, you know why 45 ACP came around? Because the American-Philippine War, or the Philippine-American War, depending on your perspective, 38s weren't doing the trick, so they needed something more powerful. Because the Moros would do what? They would pre-tourniquet to slow down the blood flow. That can be done with a rope and a jam knot. But I'm not selling you rope. I'm not selling you tourniquets. Remember where you are. That's part of the survival acronym. That's the thing that people miss. They make these checklists and these systems, but they don't execute. Remember where you are. You're in a classroom right now. You're getting a free gift right now, right? That's part of awareness. It's part of awareness. Have you made a living teaching survival? Okay, well, why would that hurt your ego if it's a challenge to you? You see what I mean? That's ridiculous. Because you will kill you first. If you don't size up the situation, that propaganda, inactivity, and pride and ego will get you in trouble. You're not doing intelligence preparation in the battle space or battlefield. It's generally people making bad decisions is what gets them in a survival situation in the first place. So it's how to think, not what to think. But the ultimate survival kit is training the mind to actually implement the survival acronym. Can you size up the situation if you're accurately if your ego's in the way? No. Can you size up the situation if your pride is in the way? No. You see what I mean? Sometimes the best thing to do is just stay put till morning. But they might make fun of me at elk camp if I don't get back because I got lost. Yeah, but they'd be alive. Every year people get into terrible situations because they're propaganda, inactivity, pride, and ego. That's a very huge threat to your survival. It's huge. It's one of the biggest ones. There's another one, and then this is where people get into situations, is they don't use this thing called the 4 pillars of communication. The 4 pillars of communication, there's 4 of them. You have the transmitting station, you have the message, you have the receiving station, and you have the acknowledgement. I use the term QSL as the acknowledgement that, hey, yeah, I received the message. That's part of staying found. It's also part of executing general order number 1 and 2. Is loving God and loving your neighbors yourself. If you don't respond, you don't care about that person at all. You're not staying found. That's how you get lost. That's how you burn the relationship. This is critical. This right here is critical in executing the golden rule and the 2 great commands. Because what's missing is people send a text, right? They send a message, and then the receiving station doesn't respond, which damages the relationship. It's just a fact because it creates this thing called assumptions, which makes an ass out of you and me. Because I don't know if you got it. I don't know if I should launch rescue because it's almost the opposite of the person crying wolf, isn't it? And everyday use, everyday carry trumps a good idea fairy. Wait, survival situation. Let me get my super duper survival kit bag bullshit truck full of crap. All those things. The stuff rather than live by your wits. Well, in order to live by your wits, the order is learn basic skills before you get into a survival situation. The mind is the most powerful weapon, to quote Rambo. Well, yeah, kind of. I would say vertical alignment with perfect timing is the most powerful weapon. The only way I know how to access that is to be aligned with what the creator of the universe has for you to do. Then you're exactly where you need to be. But if we go with the ability to cut and the ability to start fire as a base skill, right? Then we can also look at the 4 pillars of communication as a base skill that keeps us out of the survival situation in the first place. If we can recognize that the true enemy, doing the intelligence preparation of the battle space, is pipe to everything, to the longevity of our offspring, to the relationships we have with other people, to the people that might come and actually rescue you, etc. If you start to understand that, you need quality over quantity relationships. Oh, because that's how mankind has, grouped together to increase their survival odds. So it's the basics first. The professionals do the basics until they can't get them wrong. Do I have the elements to start a fire here? Well, if I have cord, that gives me my string for my bow drill, doesn't it? If this Akita cedar gives me a baseboard, and it also gives me what? All the other things I need. The grass that I have here, which is to keep it quiet, but it can also catch a spark. And I have a blade that'll cut through the BS. That can also be used as a spear. And that will give me standoff in the relationship with the way that I relate to my environment. And see, people will focus on just the knife. Oh, so what kind of knife is that? Oh, I've told you. Whether you listen or not is irrelevant to me. But I can see, because I have solidified, established experience, in my relationship with cutting, in my relationship with fire, that I have the tools I need here. And so now I can see the superiority of a wooden sheath and a cord because, hey, Mr. Miyagi, what belt are you? In Okinawa, don't need belt, use rope to hold up pants. Use rope to start fires. Use rope to stop the bleed. Use rope to signal. Use rope for all kinds of things that you can use rope for. And if you understand the quality of the material and use by running a system out, which is here, manufacture, use, maintenance, and sustainable systems, then you start to see the potential. You don't just see, oh, that's just a sheath. You see the elements that are needed in your fire triangle, which is what? Fuel, oxygen, and ignition. Ultimate survival kit. Now you throw a piece of cloth, a simple, lowly cravat. Now you have all kinds of other capabilities and capacities right before your eyes, from something that will help you with your thermoregulation, something that will help you stop the bleed, something that will keep the hornets off of your wounds, something that will help you filter, something that will help you carry, something that will help you weaponize it into a sling. So now you have more standoff. Do you know how to use the material? Because the Westerner focus is just on the material, as opposed to how can I use it to meet my survival needs. Have I gone through this process pre-crisis, pre-situation to really understand the use and the manufacture of the idea and the different holes that these things can plug? A different ball game, different sport. And remember where you are. Am I trying to sell you a cravat or a matagi or a blade? No. But that's what you're used to here, because train, condition, response to the propaganda will get you to emote over your choices. Right? And that's the issue. We'll actually have you burn relationships because you're not executing general order number 1 and 2. The ultimate survival kit is vertical alignment. It's brothers operating excellence in relationship. Are you operating excellence in relationships by telling people where you're going and when to expect you back so they don't worry, or so that they launch rescue, right? But in your undue haste, you forget the 4 pillars of communication. And so you leave it at a question mark, so assumptions is there. And I don't give a crap what your radios are, right? If you can't do the 4 pillars of communication, you have no communication network. If you cannot sustain the relationship, you do not have a relationship. If you're not investing in it, if you're not working on your marriage or working on your divorce, without sustain, it's just LARPing. It's shoot, move, communicate, sustain. But people should really do is sustain by communicating, which creates motion for you before you can even, so you don't have to shoot. The ultimate survival kit is vertical alignment. The number one prep video that I have here is cases of these, because the principles that are in that book outlast and outlive. Is moth and rust going to destroy those principles? No. So what are you surviving for? The apocalypse, right? Is it to gather a bunch of useless stuff that you're not going to... How many of these knives can I use at once? Right? You know what I mean? And so if you build your skills, you carry less kit. And, years and years of chasing my ballistic tail and listening to the fake experts and people regurgitating the same information over and over again in all the survival books on their falsities that are control mechanisms, such as the universal edibility test, which is just follow where that came from. It came from the military for control. Guess what? There's a lot of poisonous plants that are not bitter. Yeah. See what family hemlock's in. Carrot family, right? What's sweet? Oh, you see what I mean? There's plenty of poison that's sweet. There's plenty of poison that will tickle your ears to make you feel good, to give you a false sense of security because you have a bunch of crap in a box or a bag. That's a false sense of security. It's false, right? Oftentimes peddled by people that have no experience or qualifications because they can't stay in their own lane, because they're not an authority, and it ruins their witness. That's this thing that's associated with that book. It's called Law, Lanes, Authority, Witness. Well, if you've been teaching survival for several decades, then you might be an authority in it. If you just learned something yesterday, you think you can teach it? That's a problem. Because that'll get you in trouble, because you might miss something, wouldn't you? Because you haven't tested it under pressure and accountability. You haven't tested it in your environment in your 90%. Have you pressure tested the relationship? Or are you putting negative pressure on the relationship because you're failing to communicate? Are you failing to communicate? Are you failing to show that you value those people because you are refusing to close the loop, creating an ass out of you? Sometimes me, sometimes not. 4 pillars of communication. They're critical to your survival, right? Remember where you are. Remember where you are. It's hard to improvise if you don't have basic skills, right? Have you even paid attention to what the natives are doing in your environment? How did the deer do it? Sweet feed and electric fences? Is that how they stay alive throughout the winter? No. Right? Actually take in the data. Area studies happen before you move, and that's area assessment once you move. So it separates the pros from the know-it-alls. People try to attach themselves to military terminology, and they have no idea what they're saying. And then when they're corrected, they're too proud to admit when they're wrong. Propaganda, inactivity, pride, and ego, which gets in the way of the relationship. It's a relationship. Are you building the relationship with your environment? Are you building a relationship with your skills so that you can interact in the environment? Professionals do the basics until they can't get them wrong. the ability to cut the time wasters out of your life, the ability to temper the relationship with fire, vetting. These are principles, and you start to see that these principles become very circular, right? And if you're going to quench something, living water. It's a different way of thinking. It's how to think, not what to think. Because quite frankly, I don't know what type of survival situation you're going to be in, but I can tell you you're in one right now. And none of us are getting off this rock alive, right? So you better do the best you can with what you got where you're at, to quote Pastor Fox. Yeah, that's a good idea. But the real gold is in the relationship. The quality of life is in the relationship. The quality of the steel, the quality of your ability to cut. The blade that cuts through the prepper pontification by fake experts. What's their qualifications? Are they seeking titles they don't deserve? Well, that's a clue in the intel world, isn't it? It's a clue. Anybody with a microphone now can be an expert, right? That's all it takes? Right? Or does it take experience? Does it take experience? The ultimate survival kit is how to think, not what to think. That you can take with you. Portability is king in that case, isn't it? Because you can't guarantee you're going to have any of this stuff, except for what's in your mind, right? Do you have the sisu required? Do you have the intestinal fortitude required? Do you value living enough to vanquish fear and panic because you remember where you are, so you stay in your lane and you respect authority, which builds your witness and helps you make good, sound decisions so you can improvise and learn and live by your wits? But the natives know more than you. And if that hurts your ego, why would it? They live there. Right? They live there. And if you're too proud to learn from them, if you're the ugly American, that's an issue. And it's going to be the opposite that you want with navigating the human terrain in that environment to increase your survival. Because you'll burn rapport with the chieftain, because you didn't realize where you are. You're on his land, and he's not going to put up with your garbage. He didn't realize you're in captivity, right? So be a good servant. Right? The pride starts to get, the cackles get up real easy then, doesn't it? I mean, that's the issue, man. That's the issue to your survival, is the propaganda, inactivity, pride, and ego. And that's the target I've been shooting at since this project started. That's what will keep you alive if you keep this in check. You want to survive? Keep this in check. How do you keep this in check? General order number 1 and 2. Love God and love your neighbors yourself. You have to love yourself first, right? Implied tasks versus specified tasks. I hope this finds you well and broadens your horizon on what the ultimate survival kit is. If you want to know more, follow the links to my Patreon page or Brother Rex's page. I'm over there a bunch, especially these upper tiers. Your access to certain mentors, instructors, a very short window. I'm not about regurgitating garbage of the charlatans of commercialism. That's kit focused, and that's baby steps, man. You need to grow up. You need to get outside of that commercialism chain of people telling you what to buy. You'd be better off with a coffee can and a butcher knife and a wool blanket, and doing this in a safe environment, so you can learn from it. Higher learning through harder impact. You see the simplicity and the beauty of a system. It doesn't fit your myopic paradigm, does it? Does it? Carry rucksacks, not feelings bags. Look in the description and generally the first comment to find the links to go to my Patreon page when it's still available. And remember, you are the sum total of the people that you surround yourself with. You're the sum total of the stuff that you digest. So be careful, guard yourself. Shalom, shalom. See you soon.